Hello everyone, my name is Eugenia and welcome to my fourth booktube. It is the last booktube of the year and I will be talking about the novel Wuthering Heights and the short story The Black Cat. To start with, I'm going to give you a brief summary of Wuthering Heights and then I will compare and contrast the characters Edgar Linton and Heathcliff. After this, I'm going to give you a brief summary of the Black Cat, and next I will give my opinion on the use of violence against animals. So let's get into it. Wuthering Heights is a novel written by Emily Bronte and published in 1847. The novel is set in the year 1801. Mr. Lockwood, who is the narrator, shows up at Wuthering Heights to make arrangements with Heathcliff to rent the Nervy Manor, Thrucross Grange. Heathcliff, the landlord, not a pleasant person, immediately becomes a source of deep curiosity to Lockwood. A snowstorm forces Lockwood to spend the night at Wuthering Heights, and during the night he has nightmares with a wailing ghost named Catherine Linton. Settled into his new house, Lockwood invites the housekeeper, Nellie, to tell the story of the curious inhabitants of Wuthering Heights. And here is where Nellie starts narrating the main plot line of Wuthering Heights. Nellie, when she was a young girl, she started working for the Enshaws. Everything is fine until Mr. Enshaw takes a trip to Liverpool and returns with an orphan child named Heathcliff, who is raised with the Enshaw children, Catherine and Hindley. Catherine feels affection about Heathcliff, but Hindley does not, since he feels left behind and replacing Mr. Enshaw's affection. Because of this argument, Hindley is eventually sent to college, but he returns 3 years later when Mr. Enshaw dies. With a new wife, Frances, he becomes master of Wuthering Heights and forces Heathcliff to become a servant instead of a member of the family. But soon Heathcliff finds companionship on Catherine until they encounter the Lintons. Edgar and Isabella Linton live at Thrucross Grange and are the complete opposites of Heathcliff and Catherine. The Lintons welcome Catherine into their home, but Heathcliff is treated as an outsider. When Catherine is bitten by a dog, she stays at the Grange for 5 weeks to recuperate. While there, she captures deep affection for Edgar Linton, and Heathcliff's life at Wuthering Heights has been miserable without Catherine. Then Frances died after giving birth to a son, Harrington. After this, Hindley becomes an abusive alcoholic and behaves even more cruelly and abusively towards Heathcliff and towards everyone in the house. Soon, Catherine spends more time with Edgar, which makes Heathcliff jealous, and when Heathcliff overhears Catherine tell Nellie that she can never marry him because of his lack of status and education, he leaves Wuthering Heights and is gone for 3 years. While he is gone, Catherine ends up marrying Edgar despite her love for Heathcliff. When Heathcliff returns, he returns as a gentleman, having grown stronger and richer. He finds Catherine and Edgar married and living at Thrucross Grange. Heathcliff is now on a mission of revenge against Edgar, so he plans to marry Isabella. And there is an argument with Edgar which causes Catherine to lock herself in her room and fall ill. Heathcliff has been staying at the Heights, gambling with Hindley and teaching Harrington bad habits, while Hindley is gradually losing his wealth. While Catherine is ill, Heathcliff runs away with Isabella in order to get married, causing Edgar to disown his sister. They return 2 months later to Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff hears that Catherine is ill and arranges with Nellie to visit her in secret. In the early hours of the day after their meeting, Catherine gives birth to her daughter, Cathy, and then she dies. The day after Catherine's funeral, and unable to take Heathcliff's abusiveness any longer, Isabella flees to London, where she gives birth to a son, Linton Heathcliff. Hindley dies 6 months after his sister, and Heathcliff finds himself the master of Wuthering Heights and the guardian of Harrington. 12 years later, Cathy has grown into a beautiful, high-spirited girl who didn't know about the existence of Wuthering Heights. Edgar hears that Isabella is dying and leaves to pick up her son with the intention of adopting him. While he is gone, Kathy meets Harrington on the moors and learns of her cousin and Wuthering Heights' existence. Edgar returns with Linton, who is a weak and sickly boy. Although Kathy is attracted to him, Heathcliff wants his son with him and insists on having him taken to the Heights. 3 years later, Heathcliff allows Kathy to visit Linton and Harrington, and he plans that Linton and Kathy get married so that he will become an owner at Thruck's Grange. So Kathy and Linton begin a secret friendship. While Edgar is very ill, Nellie and Kathy visit Wuthering Heights and are held captive by Heathcliff, who wants to marry his son to Kathy and at the same time prevent her from returning to her father before he dies. After 5 days, Nellie is released and Kathy escapes with Linton's help, just in time to see her father before he dies. With Heathcliff now the master of both Wuthering Heights and Thruck's Grange, he keeps his widowed daughter-in-law with him at Wuthering Heights so that she can work for him as a common servant, and then he rents out Thruck's Grange to Lookwood. Nellie's story is now complete. Lookwood's fascination with Heathcliff has turned to disgust, and he gives notice to Heathcliff that he will be leaving Thruck's Grange to return to London. 6 months later, however, he is back in the neighborhood and visits Nellie, who gives him an update on the dramatic tale. Nellie had moved to the Heights soon after Lookwood had left to replace the housekeeper who had departed. In March, Harrington had had an accident and been confined to the farmhouse. During this time, a friendship had developed between Kathy and Harrington. Then Heathcliff begins to act very strangely, seeing visions of Catherine. After not eating for 4 days, he is found dead in his room, and then he is buried next to Catherine. Lookwood departs, but before he leaves, he hears that Harrington and Kathy plan to marry on New Year's Day. And this is the end of the story. Now let's compare Edgar Linton and Heathcliff. Despite their love for Catherine, they are completely different from each other. When it comes to physical appearance, Edgar Linton and Heathcliff are completely different. Heathcliff is dark, brooding, and often with an untidy look, whereas Edgar Linton is fair, has blue eyes, and handsome. With regard to their personalities, Heathcliff is as white as his appearance, and he has been rescued from the street of Liverpool by Cathy's father. Heathcliff has known difficulty and suffering, and he is consequently quick to become defensive or offensive. On the other hand, Edgar Linton is sophisticated and refined, and his manners are impeccable. And yet, Catherine loved Heathcliff in a way she can never love Edgar. Now let's jump into The Black Cat. The Black Cat is a short story written by Edgar Allan Poe and first published in the Saturday Evening Post in August 1843 and included in the collection Tales by Edgar Allan Poe in 1845. The man tells the story about a cat named Pluto he used to have as a pet. He describes Pluto as a remarkably large, beautiful animal, entirely black. The narrator and Pluto have become closer. He takes care of Pluto, and Pluto follows him everywhere around the house. Then everything goes wrong. The narrator, an alcoholic, starts getting angry at everyone. He mistreats his wife and their other animals, but he never hurts Pluto. But one night the narrator comes home drunk and thinks Pluto is avoiding him. He grabs the cat, who bites him, and as a consequence the narrator cuts out one of the cat's eyes. The next day, the narrator is horrified about his action, though it is not enough to get him to stop drinking. The cat's eyes heals, but Pluto and he and the narrator no longer have a relationship. Pluto starts to avoid the narrator all the time. Instead of feeling remorseful, the narrator just feels irritated at the cat's behavior. So the narrator hangs the cat in a cold blood from a tree. That night his house burns down. The narrator, his wife, and their servant all escape from the fire. But the fire destroys his home and all of his possessions. When the narrator returns to the ashes later, he sees the figure of a cat on the only surviving wall. Months pass. The narrator sees a cat remarkably similar to Pluto, except that on his chest is a white patch. The cat follows him home. At first, the narrator likes the cat, but soon he can't stand the cat at all, especially after he notices that one of its eyes is missing. The more he hates the cat, the more the cat likes him. The narrator cannot bring himself to hurt the cat because he is afraid of it. The white shape on its chest morphs into a gallows, a direct reminder of his crime against Pluto. Eventually, the narrator is driven so mad that he tries to kill the cat with an axe. His wife intervenes, and the narrator ends up killing his wife. He decides to conceal the body inside his house behind the wall of the basement. The narrator looks for the cat, but it is missing. For 3 nights he sleeps undisturbed by the cat. Then, on the fourth day, the police come to his house to ask questions about his wife's disappearance. During their investigation, the narrator raps on the wall he has revealed to conceal his wife's corpse. The noise of him knocking causes the cat, which had accidentally become sealed inside the wall, to howl, alerting the police to the presence of the narrator's wife. So this is the end of the short story. Every day, countless cats, dogs, and other animals suffer and die at the hands of the very people who are supposed to take care of them and to protect them. Physical violence, emotional abuse, and life-threatening neglect are daily realities for many animals. Harm to animals is common in our society, and their deaths are sometimes truly horrific. Humanity's relationship with animals is dysfunctional. Humans love animals, yet simultaneously perpetrate extreme violence against them. Due to the overkilling of animals, some species are in endangered states and some of them have already been extinct. Humans are destroying nature. Also, we cannot ignore the fact that animals have feeling too, and they are also a creation of God. Moreover, the laws that we have now aren't enforced enough as they should be. There isn't enough attention being given to the subject as there should be. There are laws about animals' cruelty and abuse, but aren't used as much as they should be. We don't recognize animal abuse as much as we should either. Human and animals cannot simply end their relationship and part ways. We have to share a world, so we have to forge a better relationship. So this is all for now. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have enjoyed. Bye bye.